Okay, here we are on day 2 of DevOps Days Austin, and I'm here with John Willis. John, how you doing?
Hey, great.
So you kicked off the show yesterday. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you said and what you were talking to folks about?
Yeah, so this kind of I typically do what we call the State of the Union, and this actually Patrick DeBois started this a couple of years ago, where he'd get everybody to stand up and he'd say how many people are. Everybody who's been to one, sit down. Everybody who's been to 2 DevOps days, sit down. And it was kind of baked because usually it was me and him who were the last 2 standing, and who's been the most, and then he'd call me up to go ahead and do what's going on in DevOps. So I become this kind of guy that comes in and talks about the State of the Union per se. So yesterday was another State of the Union kickoff, and what I talked about was this thread that has been really interesting to me is why are these certain companies doing incredibly well at hiring. We talk about this culture, culture that, and I've always been a big fan of, this acronym CAMS that me and Damon came up with, culture, automation, measurement, sharing. But it seems that people, say, yeah, culture, yeah, and then get me to the chef and the automation and the puppet. And I think I caught a wave here on the culture to get people excited, and that is, hey, maybe instead of me telling you that culture is great, showing you that there are certain companies that have figured out that there's some secret sauce in this war of hiring, the strategic, and like we're going to hire to our culture, and if you're this kind of person that fits this culture, you really want to come here. So I really talked about the kind of models of how companies treat culture, and I used basically Netflix, GitHub, and Etsy as models of companies that have kind of figured out this, like if you're this kind of person, this is our culture, come here. And you want to be here. And it seems like some really interesting people in our field are all going to work for those exact 3 companies right now.
Is there a common thread between the 3? I mean, those are always held up, but what is it is it because they're enlightened as far as DevOps goes, or?
What I talked about yesterday is I said, I'm no expert on culture. Like, I'm just trying to kind of grok this for myself. And I said, over the last couple of years, what I've seen is 3 types of ways that, in my opinion, companies treat culture. And they either treat it as we're going to change culture. It's a command and control, bring a new CEO, bring in consultants, right? Fail, right? And then there's the kind of, well, you can't change culture. What are we going to do? We'll game it, or we'll kind of trick it out. And then I think this third one, which is where I think the Etsy and GitHub and Netflix fall into, is like finding out what their true culture is. Don't change it, don't touch it, embrace it. And so what the strategic weapon is, and for example, if you take Netflix, classic example, that culture is a very aggressive. We hire really good people and we fire you if you're not great. Like, we tell you when you're coming in, this isn't a joke here. Most companies say, "Oh, we hire the smartest people," but they say, and they, apparently they do, hold you to that, and that's a very aggressive style, right? And maybe some people might not want to go to work for a company like that, but what they've tapped into is that the kind of people that do like that and actually thrive. That's their strategic weapon. Now, GitHub, on the other hand, is this kind of collaborative social model. People love the model of GitHub, the distributed sharing of information, that whole model. And I think they're tapping into, and actually the thing that got me started on this is somebody I know, a really good VP of Ops, went to work there, and when he tweeted about it, he said, "I took a cut and pay to go to GitHub." And I was like, ooh, that's in a time where there's a war on hiring. So I think the moral here is that the people who have figured out what their culture is, and they're not trying to game it, fix it, or change it, they're basically driving it as that weapon of, like, we will find the people that, and Etsy is these artisans. Their customers create things. They have this kind of Etsy.
Code is craft.
The code is craft, right? So this, like, if you're the kind of person that likes to build things that help people make things, right? And so it's universal. And I'll say one thing is that I also talk about Simon Sinek, right? And there's this great book, Start With Why. And Simon Sinek has this idea of a golden circle. There's a great TED talk on it. You can look it up. But he talks about the golden circle, and it starts with the what, the how, and the why. And he says most companies focus on the what and the how and not the why. But more importantly, he says there's kind of two sides of a why. There's the why people go to work for a particular company. Is there a leader? Is there some type? And I say that's that culture. That's the culture that Etsy is trying to tap into. That's what Netflix and GitHub are figuring out. We're hiring these people. But here's the beauty. What Simon Sinek says, if you can match the culture of the people that come to work with you, that why, with the why of what your customers buy, now you've got something magical. And I think that out of those three, I think Etsy has that the closest, where they're trying to match the people that want to go to Etsy and work there, and match that with the kind of people that like to buy, are the same kind of people who buy things. So again, it's something I've been really interested in, and as you know, is figuring out a way to use culture as a strategic weapon, particularly in one of the biggest problems we have in our industry right now, which is the hiring wars. It's how difficult it is to hire talent in this technology space we're all in.
Awesome. John Willis, thank you so much.
You're welcome.